Hey everybody, welcome to the Broomghost Dustpan, the official podcast of the Broomghost Let's Play channel. You can find us at Broomghost on just about everything. We've got YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. We don't use Twitter because it's a cesspool. This is a series that we're starting. We're calling it...
Wait, is that not Zelda?
Is that not Zelda? What are we calling it?
I think that was it, right? Wait, is that not Zelda?
Wait, is that not Zelda? Okay. It's called Wait, is that not Zelda? So this is a series where we're playing all of the Zelda games in chronological order. So if you don't know, the Zelda games are pretty dicey about like which one happens when. They're kind of all over the place. So we've consulted numerous websites as well as the book
Hyrule Historia, and we now have a list of what games we'll be playing when. So it starts off with Skyward Sword, Minish Cap, Four Swords, Ocarina of Time, and then this is where the timeline splits. For us, we are starting with the child timeline. So from Ocarina of Time, we're going straight into Majora's Mask, Twilight Princess, Four Swords Adventure, and then we will be following the Fallen Hero timeline, then the adult timeline, and then the Era of Calamity. We'll go through the games as we go through them. I don't want to read like a whole list. You don't have to read the whole list, but that's just a quick preview of the direction we're going. I'm very happy that we're taking was it the adult timeline? Yep. Or the child timeline that has which one has Majora's Mask?
That's the child's timeline.
I'm really glad that we're taking the child's timeline from the split because, as my brother pointed out, going from Ocarina of Time right into Majora's Mask is an experience, and I'm really excited about it.
First of all, I think we need to take a moment and give a shout out to old Jake Roach.
For sure.
Crazy good musician, very good at being like, hey, this is the vibe I want, and that's my only direction because I don't know as much as you. And he's like, got it.
Yeah, Jake is the composer of our theme song that you just heard. He also helped us come up with the title of this series.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. That's true. Literally, we had been spitballing ideas, all of which were not good. And I was like, I gotta talk to Jake. I know he's gonna have a good name for this. And of course he did. So
one other thing I want to say about this series, this playthrough of all the Zeldas chronologically by timeline is Sean has only played a few of the Zelda games.
Not a single one all the way through, starting now.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have been an essentially lifelong Zelda fan.
For sure.
But there are several games in the series that I have not played. Basically, I grew up on the 3D Zeldas, so they're all very important to me. But the 2D ones, the handheld games, those are all new territory for me. So, I have been, obsessed with The Legend of Zelda, as a series since I was a little kid. And this is Sean's first real, foray into it.
True, yeah. I didn't play any of the Zelda games at all. Don't have a really good reason why. I had some of them. I just didn't play them.
There's a lot of stuff to play.
Here's another thing that I think we should point out about this whole series as well, is that this is a very beloved series. People take Zelda very seriously.
People are me.
What we're talking about here is we are going through these games and we are reviewing them based on our opinion. So you may feel differently if you're listening to this game, but please be nice. We're not saying that this is the end-all, say-all of each game. We are giving you our opinions of these games as we play them. Oftentimes, I feel like, especially for games that carry a lot of nostalgia, it's not necessarily that it's how it actually was, but it's how you remember it.
It's how it made you feel.
So when you go back and you play some old games, it's like, wow, this game actually sucks.
Yeah,
So no foreshadowing here for the first episode, but just something, I'm probably going to say that at the top of every episode that these are strictly our opinions. We're not speaking for anybody.
And if you're very welcome to voice your own opinion if you disagree with us, but just, don't be a jerk.
Yeah,
be
I'm
nice.
not going to read it personally.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
I'll read it.
I'll read it and stew about it for the rest of my life.
I'm going to tell you. I'll tell you. And I'm going to tell your mom. I'll find her.
Tell your mom that you like a bad game. No, but, just to kind of reiterate that, like, we are just going to be talking about our own experiences with the game and our own opinions. I know for me, if there's a game that I've had a very profound experience with, Zelda or otherwise, I love hearing about other people's experience with it, even if it's different from mine. So that's what this is meant to be. If you have an attachment to Zelda, or if you have never played a Zelda game, either way, hopefully, either my voice or Sean's voice will be some kind of surrogate for your experience.
Yeah. What I like to think is that, like my perspective, having never played them before, will be closer to, like, their experience when they first played it, and yours will be, like, looking back,
the
having
seasoned
replayed
fan
it.
Who's like...
Right. who knows the potential that the game can live up to, so to speak. Is sort of, you'll sort of have their voice.
I also want to give a disclaimer for myself that even though I've been obsessed with Zelda since I was in elementary school, I'm not an expert, and I'm probably going to get stuff wrong, and I just feel like I have to say that.
Oh yeah, that's actually a good point. We're going to say names wrong. We're going to whatever. Listen, we're doing the best we can with what we have.
I'm sure we'll get more into this when we talk about Ocarina of Time, which is going to be my, like, spiritual awakening. But, talking to, like, kids who are also playing Ocarina of Time, like, when I was a kid as well, that was, like, the most thing that we argued about was how to pronounce things. Like, how to say character names. I had a neighbor that, referred to the Great Deku Tree as the Great Dooku Tree.
Oh, get out of here.
And I was like, I can't forgive that.
I thought it was Deku.
That's more acceptable. That's at least how you sometimes pronounce those vowels.
Because also, like, there's a character in My Hero Academia named Deku.
So it's probably closer to that then. And that's probably right.
I don't know. It, like, Deku is like a term for, it's like, I don't remember what it means. I think it's like somebody who's like really boring or something like that.
You can look it up.
That's what a Deku is. This isn't a podcast about My Hero Academia.
It means wooden puppet.
Oh, okay.
Which can also mean colloquially, like, useless person.
There we go. Yeah. Okay, so.
So anyway.
Now, having said all of that, the first game that we sat down and played, the first canonical game of the Zelda franchise, is Zelda Skyward Sword. Skyward Sword originally came out in 2011 for the Wii. So what were you doing in 2011?
I had just graduated college. I was doing nothing with my life other than working at Starbucks and coming home and being like, now what?
Did you play Skyward Sword when it first came out?
Yes.
Yeah. Wait, hold on. This was the first Zelda game that you owned that was yours, right?
Yeah, so I had I got Skyward Sword as a Christmas present in 2011. So it was a gift from my brother Caleb, who wrapped the game case in a roll of packing tape. I think several rolls of packing tape. And so I used like a steak knife to get it out of the packing tape. But anyway, it was significant because, like, I have 3 siblings. You know, when we got new games, my brothers would usually beat them first. And, you know, I was, like, busy or whatever, and I would just, like, watch them finish games, and then I'd either have to, like, replay them and know what was going to happen, or I just wouldn't want to bother. But this one, because it was gifted to me specifically, and it was the first Zelda game we had that wasn't all of ours, I was given, like, sibling rights to beat it first. Nice. So I was really looking forward to it.
So in 2011, that's the year I graduated high school.
Oh, wow.
So, at that time in my life, I think I was working at McDonald's and absolutely hated it. Games at the time, I was firmly in the camp of Xbox 360. I pretty much played everything on that console that I could get my hands on. At that time, it was probably like Call of Duty 4 or Call of Duty World at War whatever was popular back then. I played a lot of Halo 3, but I know that came out earlier. I think I was a sophomore in high school when that came out. But I had a Wii, but I never played the Wii. I think the majority of the games that I ever played on the Wii was like the Wii Sports game, and that was about it. I had some friends that had a Wii, but like again, nobody played Zelda. I specifically remember like commercials for the game, like when it first came out.
For Skyward Sword?
For Skyward Sword. And I remember like it being very popular and very hyped for it being a big release, but I never really knew why. Like what the fuss was about, of why they were putting so much behind it. And having now like done the tiniest amount of research, it's that Skyward Sword was released as, what was it, the
25th anniversary of the Legend of Zelda series.
Right. So that was a big reason why this game was sort of so hyped up at that time. Was we're 25 years into the Zelda franchise now, which is obviously quite a big deal. So they did put a lot of effort into promoting the game that came out prior, which again, not canonically.
Yeah, just like released prior.
Released prior was, I believe, Twilight Princess, right? And Twilight Princess came out in 2006. So...
God, I love that game.
We will get there.
I'm drooling.
So, as pretty much right after Twilight Princess was released, they started working on Skyward Sword, to the point where it was pushed back in development, even just to get it right. And I assume as well to hit that 25-year mark. So they spent a lot of time making this game. I mean, years developing this game for the Wii, which at the time was like, motion controls are the future. Like, everybody's gonna, and like,
I actually think this was the last game that came out for the Wii before the Wii U was released.
I think you are correct.
It was at least one of the last ones.
Yeah. Now, Skyward Sword, like as we mentioned, originally came out in 2011 for the Wii. It was later released for the Switch in 2021. Now, that is the version of the game that we played.
Yeah, we played the HD re-release.
We played, I think it's important to note that we didn't go back and play it on the Wii. We do have a Wii, but like copies of Skyward Sword are harder to come by. And you can digitally download the Switch version.
I also didn't want to have to seek out a Wii Motion Plus connector for my Wii remotes, because I don't have the Wii remotes that have it built in, which came after.
Is that the little nunchuck?
No. All the Wii remotes are like this, and a nunchuck that like plugs into it.
Yeah.
But the Wii Motion Plus actually had like, it was a little thing that you would plug into the bottom of the main part, not the nunchuck, and it just like made the motion a little bit more fine-tuned. And then like subsequently released Wii remotes just had that technology built into it.
Right.
But it was like, if you buy this game and you have one of the original Wii remotes, you're going to need this thing to plug in to make it work right, basically.
Classic Nintendo.
Yeah.
Right? Or like, hey, buy this game, but you might need to also buy this thing for it. But, you should buy this game.
It's reminiscent of, I don't know if you ever played Donkey Kong 64, but that like needed an expansion pack that you had to put in order to play it. It's a similar thing of like, okay, we didn't like stay within our limits, so buy this extra piece.
So the initial reception of the game, we're talking about 2011 here, was overwhelmingly positive, gaining perfect scores from Edge, IGN, and Game Informer. Now, this is like the magazines are releasing these games, hyping it up to being 10 out of 10 scores across the board. There was a huge list of scores that I went through. There was nothing below a 9.
That's unbelievable.
Almost everything was super, super high. It won many awards for various institutions, such as Best Sound, Story, and Graphics in the Wii category from IGN. And Best Game and Best Sound Soundtrack from RP Gamer. It was also nominated by many different institutions for Game of the Year. I don't know that it took home any Game of the Year nominations, but or any wins rather, but it was nominated multiple times for hey Jackie.
Yeah, just to...
I'm gonna lean into it because
it's unavoidable.
He's the fourth member of he just kind of hangs out. Jackie, of course, we're talking about the cat. You heard the meow.
Yeah,
he's cute. He has no teeth. So again, won multiple awards, nominated for Game of the Year by multiple institutions. As of March of 2012. Okay, so less than a year from the release here, the game sold 3.52 million copies and was the fastest selling game in the franchise.
In the franchise?
At the time of 2012.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, because
what's wild to me about the sales of that game, though, is that like people also had to buy like an extra edition to their Wii remote. So it's like, how did that not... stunted in some way. But people were excited. People were really excited for that. I was excited.
Yeah. So was this a game that you were like waiting for?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was really, I knew there was a game coming out for the 25th anniversary. I feel like I remember knowing that like it was going to be motion controls, and so you could actually like swing your sword like Link, and it's like that sounds really fun and really cool, and how are they going to do that? And I was super excited to play this game.
I remember seeing commercials. I mentioned this earlier. I remember seeing commercials and seeing that you could like swing your sword, and I remember being like, "Oh, that's cool." And that is as far as it went for me. I was like, "Oh, cool," because I'm one of those people. Probably why I wanted to do this series so bad is because I'm one of those people where I want to start at the beginning and watch the story unfold till the end. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily want to jump into the middle. Jackie, can I get a clean one for the mic, please? Good boy. So you didn't like the game? What was wrong with it? Oh, yeah.
He's so right.
I thought the motion controls were a little difficult too, but we'll get into that. Thank you very much. So, I am one of those people. I hope
he feels included.
I'm one of those people where I want to play it from the beginning to the end. So I think that's one of the reasons why I wanted to kind of start this series is to play a game that's so fragmented across its entire franchise, to try and find some sort of linear path through that, to kind of get the good brain juice in my brain of like
doing something completely
right.
It's no secret that the timeline, continuity of Zelda is very much an afterthought. It was very much just, oh, Jackie, I'm right though is the thing. Very much like things being released with their individual stories and some similarities, and then later
sometimes the same story.
Yeah, sometimes the same story. But it was only like either right before or right after the release of this game that Zelda even bothered putting together an official timeline, because like we've talked about, I don't think they realized people wanted that.
Yeah.
And so it can sometimes be a little weird, where it's like that doesn't quite fit, and it's like, yeah, well, I don't think it was intended to fit when these things were being made. Yeah. But for all intents and purposes, this is the way that it's been sequentially laid out retrospectively.
Right. And if we can take ourselves back to 2011, one thing that's true about a lot of games at that time is that there was no continuity between sequels. I mean, they would have the same characters, but the stories would be completely different. There would be almost nothing to do with them. I don't think that at the time we really cared too much about a longer format of something.
Yeah.
That is something that you see way more now,
mm-hmm.
Of people being more interested in continuations of this sort of building this universe. I'm not sure where I would love to hear like people's opinions on like where that started and like what they feel is like a really good example of that. I mean, the first thing that I can think of honestly is like Game of Thrones being like a long format that like people wanted a continuation of. They don't want to have, season 2 being so drastically different than season 1. They want, this continuity of this long form story that's happening.
Yeah. I feel like there's also that in, like, Star Wars, though. People paid attention to, like, how everything fit together.
True.
So it's, like, fandoms like that, where it's like, oh, this thing means a lot to me. I try to keep track of all the things in this world and, like, wanting creators of the content to do the same.
Yeah, I think it just wasn't as popular in video games. I
no,
mean, like,
you're totally right.
Like, super, like, if we tried to do this with the Mario games...
Oh, yeah, there's no...
Oh, my God.
There's no tracking
There's
that.
nothing. Now, we've talked about how the game was perceived when it first released. And some people who are listening might be surprised to hear that the reception of this game initially was so positive, because the opinions on this game have drastically shifted over time. Where it is considered the first game of the franchise, I think a lot of people expected more from that, and in hindsight, we're a bit more critical. I know you have your own opinions.
I'm saving it for the end.
And we'll talk about it. But
I'm being good.
You're being great. So I think in hindsight, people were a bit more critical of the game, and honestly, rightfully so for the things that I see brought up quite a bit. But we'll get into those sort of when we're talking about our opinion.
I was this morning actually trying to do some research on why the game got such crazy good reviews. Like, I didn't look, and what I probably should have done is looked at it against the reviews that other Zelda games have gotten, because it's likely that Zelda games just always get very high reviews. But I think of, like, for example, one of my favorite games in the Zelda series is Wind Waker, and that had a lot of criticism when it came out, and it was valid. Like, the things that make people stop playing that game, I would never expect that game to get that high a score, but I think it's a much better game. Mm-hmm. And so the score is so high that it feels fake. It's just like, how could this have happened? And I wonder if it was people conflating... People were very anticipatory of this game, and if it wasn't more of a celebration of the series itself than the game itself.
I would say you nailed it. And if I had to guess, I would be curious how much money was spent on marketing for a game like Wind Waker versus how much money was spent on Skyward Sword, because marketing plays a huge role in altering the opinions of the people that are playing the game. Mm-hmm. So I think that also generating hype. I think the fact that we're talking 25 years in the series, that's going to drive a lot of the die-hard Zelda lovers to just fall in love with whatever, because really they're being nostalgic for the series as a whole. Yeah, thank you. Nostalgic. I got it right.
Yeah, he pronounced it right, Jack.
Some of the stuff I think some of the stuff that it was nominated for I think is valid, like, and we'll get into it, but yeah, pretty crazy high scores for what the game seems.
And like to also, like, I noticed when you were going over the accolades, like, that they're within a category of Wii games.
Yes.
Which, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's grading on a curve.
Yeah.
Because the only other Zelda game that came out for the Wii was Twilight Princess, but it came out for the GameCube first. Mm-hmm. It just had a Wii version. But we'll go over that in the Twilight Princess episode.
I think, like we said, the marketing and the nostalgia factor of viewing it as a franchise, not just this game, played into a lot of the reviews and the hype for the game.
Yeah. Alright, so I'm going to give a little bit of a plot synopsis here, just to give an overview of the story of the game. This will contain spoilers, so if you have not played Skyward Sword and you plan to, keep that in mind. So I'm going to be reading, there's a couple paragraphs here, so it's going to be like a little bit of a slog. I'm going to do my best, but it's still going to be shorter than us trying to fumble through the plot points ourselves. So we needed a skeletal structure. So Skyward Sword takes place at the beginning of the Zelda continuity. According to legend, 3 ancient goddesses bestowed a great wish-granting power, the Triforce. The Demon King Demise, a deity who had conquered time itself, laid waste to much of the land, seeking to take the Triforce. The goddess Helia gathered the survivors and sent them into the sky, allowing her to launch a full-scale offensive against Demise. She was victorious, but the land was severely damaged. Uncounted years later, the outcrop is known as Skyloft, and its people believe the surface below is a myth. In the present, knight-in-training Link passes his final exam despite attempted interferences by his class rival Groose, who considers himself a romantic rival for Link's childhood friend Zelda. After passing the exam and on a celebratory flight together, Zelda is whisked away below the clouds by a dark tornado. After recovering back on Skyloft, Link is led into the island statue of Helia to the goddess sword by Fi, the spirit of the sword who resides within it.
Everyone's favorite character.
She's so cool. Link draws the sword, showing himself to be the prophesied hero who will finally destroy Demise. Opening a way through the clouds to the surface, Link is guided by Fi to the sealed temple, where he meets an old woman who tells him to track Zelda. This leads Link across the regions of Faron Woods, Eldin Volcano, and the Lanayru Desert. While he catches up with Zelda, he's prevented from returning her to Skyloft by Impa, a young woman guarding and guiding Zelda. Link also encounters Girahim, a self-proclaimed demon lord working towards freeing Demise. At the Temple of Time in the Lanayru Desert, Link defends Zelda and Impa from Girahim, buying the two enough time to depart through the Gate of Time into the past, which Impa destroys as they pass through. Returning to the sealed temple, Link is followed by Groose, and the two end up on the surface together. Link then has to defeat the imprisoned, a monstrous form of Demise, attempting to reach the sealed temple, after the old woman shows him a second, albeit dormant, Gate of Time. With the imprisoned defeated, Link set out to strengthen the goddess sword by passing trials set by the ancient goddesses and using their gifts to find sacred flames to purify and strengthen the blade so that the time gate can be awakened. Returning to find the imprisoned attempting to break free, Link reseals it with help from Groose. Activating the Gate of Time and traveling to the past, he finds Zelda and learns that she's the mortal reincarnation of Helia.
What?
Yeah, big bombshell there. Helia could not kill Demise and was too weakened from their battle to fend him off again, so she created the goddess sword and reincarnated as a mortal to find someone who would fulfill her duty by using the Triforce to wish Demise's destruction, as only mortals can use the artifact. Zelda then seals herself inside a crystal to strengthen Demise's seal, granting her power to the goddess sword and upgrading it into the Master Sword. Link locates the Triforce on Skyloft and uses it to destroy Demise. With Demise dead, Zelda is freed, but Girahim arrives and kidnaps Zelda. Though Demise is dead in the present, Girahim intends to use Zelda as a sacrifice to resurrect him in the past. Link pursues Girahim into the past and fights through his army. He then defeats Girahim, who turns out to be the spirit of Demise's sword, but is unable to prevent Zelda from being used to reincarnate Demise's humanoid form. Groose guards Zelda's body while Link challenges Demise. Link triumphs and absorbs Demise's essence into the sword, but not before Demise curses Link and Zelda's bloodlines to be haunted by his reincarnated rage. To complete the sword's seal, Link drives it into a pedestal in the sealed temple, with Fi accepting eternal slumber as a result. Groose, Link, and Zelda return to their time while Impa remains behind and destroys the Gate of Time, as she is a person of that time and must watch over the Master Sword. In the present, the old woman greets them one last time before she dies and vanishes, revealing that she was Impa the whole time.
Oh, snap.
The game ends with the surface now freely accessible to the residents of Skyloft, while Zelda decides to remain there to watch over the Triforce, and she and Link together establish the Kingdom of Hyrule. So that's the plot synopsis.
Yeah. A couple beats there that I think are worth noting is that Fi and the Goddess Sword end up becoming the Master Sword.
Yes.
Right? That is canon. That this robot lady becomes a Master Sword.
It feels like you're...
That the fact that the goddess who raised Skyloft up basically chose to become immortal and reincarnate herself as Zelda, and Zelda later has these memories returned to her where she realizes that she is the goddess, and that Girahim, who calls himself a demon lord, is also a sword for Demise, Ganon, but not Ganon, but Ganon.
But Ganon, kind of.
And that you fight the imprisoned, who is Ganon,
Who is Demise,
who is not Ganon, but is Ganon, but not Ganon, because he's Demise.
I hate this game so much.
You see how it's very clear. It's very clear.
I have withheld my rage for as long as humanly possible.
So kind of that's like that. These are the major plot points. These are kind of what happens at the end. The imprisoned that you fight multiple times turns into a human form of Demise after absorbing the soul of Zelda, but it has to take a couple days for it to work 100%, so you can fight him. And
thank God.
Yeah, insert clip of me fighting Demise.
Oh my God, this was epic. Honestly, this was such a good fight.
Oh wow, look at that!
Look at you go.
Cool? Audio listeners, if you're not watching the video podcast,
you're missing out.
I did good.
You did so good. What did you enjoy about Skyward Sword?
So, the gameplay was pretty fun, right? The slashing, the stabbing, using for us we used the Switch remote. It could be clunky, but like the essence of it was fun, right? You do. I think it is a little bit more immersive when you are swinging the sword and kind of going about it. You did have to be careful, because if I was playing, you would like
I had to stay out of the
right
swing zone.
Yeah, the swing zone. So did Jackie, but Jackie like just refused. He kept like crawling and sitting in my lap when we were playing.
Yeah, he would stick it out for a little bit.
He loved it. And
longer than me.
I enjoyed the visuals a lot. Some of them were really good. The worlds I really enjoyed, honestly. I liked the maps that were available. The boss fights were fun. Mm-hmm. There were some that were like challenging, but they were all pretty great.
Did you have a favorite boss?
I don't remember his name, but it's the one you get the whip.
The Galactos.
That's
my favorite too. I wrote that down.
That one's fun. I like that one. I didn't mind the tentacle monster.
Yeah.
Don't Google tentacle monster.
Do Google.
Look up Zelda Skyward Sword.
Tentacle. Safe search off.
Yeah. It'll be there.
You'll find it.
You get the bow, you shoot her eye, you slice the tentacles. I think that was fun.
She fully looks like something from Monsters, Inc., though.
She does fully look like something from Monsters, Inc. The score, the music, beautiful. Mm-hmm. Really enjoyed it. Let's see, what else did I enjoy? I enjoyed the characters a lot.
Yeah.
I think that Girahim was a good creepy boss that he was very easy to hate.
Yeah.
I liked Groose. I thought Groose had a very good school bully redemption arc, to be sort of like the thorn in the side of Link, to becoming sort of like humbled and a hero when he helps to save Zelda and helps to save Link by helping you fight the imprisoned. I think that was really good. I loved the different twists that happened in the game. I loved finding out that this, spoiler warning, that this old woman that you see at the beginning of the game is this badass Impa that's been helping to save Zelda the entire time. To have, and also I think that they did a really good job dealing with time travel as well. I think that that's something that's really hard to do, especially because it's very easy to just like not do, mm-hmm. especially in 2011, where like you just like
people aren't necessarily looking for plot holes all the time in 2011.
Yeah.
As to the degree that they are now.
Yeah.
Like TV shows, media, like everything got away with like bad plot holes. But they really, I think, took the idea of time travel very seriously, and they tried to make these two worlds, if something happened in one, it directly affected the other, and that they needed to have an explanation for that. So for example here, there's a sealed door when you first go to the temple in Farron Woods. There's a sealed door that you can't get into. When you go back in time and Zelda says, hey, I'm the goddess, I have to stay here, and she crystallizes herself, that's why the door is sealed. That's why you can't get into it. You've now learned that this door has been sealed for years because Zelda has sealed the door for herself until you get the Triforce or whatever it is that you need. There's also like other continuity things that I thought were really smart. Like the fact that you get the sword in present day, right? And so after you beat the game, you're back in time where you have to fight Demise back in time because he's been imprisoned in the future, right? So you go back in time to fight Demise, and after you beat him, Fi says, hey, I have to stay here and be sealed in time. She has to do that because when Link is born, he has to find the sword in the present day. So they things like that I thought they did really well, and I really enjoyed that.
I think you'll enjoy that in other games too. They play with time and things impacting the past and future, and it is always very fun.
I thought that it is. I'm being positive here. Okay,
yes.
I thought that it was fun to have origins to things like the Master Sword. I think
my
that
eye is turning to stone.
For as somebody who has not played a single Zelda game all the way through, but I know of Zelda enough to know what a Master Sword is. It's like, oh, that's where that thing came from.
Like, oh, here's the origin.
And then I don't think about it again, you know? Just don't dig into it. Don't ask questions. Just be blindly okay with the fact that the sword is a robot fairy thing. You know?
Yeah.
It's like totally fine.
I'm actually a big fan of some of the items in the game. We've talked about how they went, whole hog into like motion controls for everything. And like sometimes that could be a bust, but the items that they imagined for a purely motion controlled game, I thought some of them were very cool. I love the beetle.
Yeah.
I thought the beetle was very fun. There are in other Zelda games, there are ways to like remotely pilot a different smaller thing to get to hard to reach areas. But I think the beetle is very cute. And I would like to have one. Yeah. I love the whip, hands down, my favorite item. That was just the most satisfying one to use with the motion controls, and that was why Galactos in the Ancient Cistern was my favorite boss, because it feels very satisfying to like whip a gear and unwind the arm off of this monster until it drops its huge weapon, and you have to use the weapon to attack it.
I mean, I feel like a very original idea.
Yeah, that was a great boss fight, and it was like thrilling. It was like, he's huge and scary. He's got a bunch of arms and swords. And, like, my heart was pounding out of my chest when I played that for the first time. And this is, like, not super related to anything. But after I beat that boss, I remember I went outside to, like, catch my breath. And I saw a shooting star.
Wow. Hell yeah. Dude.
Yeah. So I just permanently have that association, even though it doesn't really mean anything. Yeah. But I think that's a great boss fight. It's genuinely kind of difficult, but like not because the motion controls don't do what you want them to do. Like it's just kind of intimidating. So yeah, that's my favorite boss. Some of the songs in this game are very good. It does one of my favorite things that games do with conditional music. the best example of which would be the Lanayru mining facility, where the music is the same song, but you hear different parts of it, and it's more full when you're in the future, when you hit the time stones, and you get, like, the bass and, like, the accompaniments, versus when you're in the past and you get literally, like, the bones of the song, and it sounds like it's being played on a bone marimba. Yeah. But
I think you have those reversed, because when you hit the time stone, you're going back in time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I do have those reversed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when it was not a ruin.
Right.
You're totally right. I got that backwards.
Yeah.
But yeah, that song is so good. I feel like it's like a SoundCloud rapper's best case scenario, which like we kept like joke rapping over it.
Another song too that it may be on your list. I may be jumping ahead on your list here, but one thing that you kept bringing up every time it happened was Zelda's Lullaby.
Yeah, I did.
And it being played in reverse.
Yes.
Why was it played in reverse? Yeah,
that is in my notes. The Ballad of the Goddess is the main theme of the game, and it sounds great, but it's Zelda's Lullaby played in reverse. Everybody probably knows that at this point. I feel like as much as I want to roll my eyes at that, it's actually really cool. I feel like it's a very cool like homage to the rest of the series, and especially for a game that came out as an anniversary. Like, that was really great, because Zelda's Lullaby, you didn't know the song because you haven't played other Zelda games.
But it is an iconic...
It's a staple, and it's in this game.
Yeah.
In this game, on the soundtrack, it's referred to as Zelda's theme. Mm-hmm. I'm going to play here in the pod Zelda's Lullaby and the Ballad of the Goddess, and it's not literally just played in reverse. It's just like the notes in reverse, and they like made a whole new song out of it, and it sounds amazing.
I just picture like have you ever seen those videos of like a composer playing a song and it's like wrong, and then he just like picks it up and like turns like that's what I like picture happening.
Great. The other thing with the conditional music that I loved was the bazaar. Like when you're in the shop.
The item shops.
Yeah. Because it's like, it's the same theme the whole time you're in there, but the music is like faster or a little bit different based on whose booth you're at. And I love the feeling of that. Like, just like the character of where you're shopping in the bazaar feels different.
Yeah. Speaking of that, one other thing that I really enjoyed was the side quests.
Yeah.
I liked some of the side quests as being so different. And, a lot of them are sort of take you back to the worlds to revisit. There's some that are more fun than others, for sure. But overall, I liked that they did something. So like every time you finished one, you would get gratitude crystals, and that could help you to get that guy Batro as a surface dweller, to be able to like live with the people. I thought that was like a fun way to make your side quests more rewarding. Like, there is a payoff at the end of it.
Right.
Actually, there's a couple payoffs at the end of it, because you kind of get more items.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That is how you get some of your like upgrades.
Yeah. Yeah, like a lot of the wallet upgrades. There's like a 5,000 rupee wallet upgrade from that doing side quests.
Yeah. My last note on music is I love Scrapper's theme. I think it's very cute.
Nice. Which one was Scrapper's?
Scrapper is the robot that follows you.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Thomas the Tank Engine a little.
Dude, he's so sassy. He hates Link but is in love with Fee. And so like he pretty much only does things for Fee.
Yeah.
That whole dynamic was kind of like funny and lighthearted.
I mean, I don't even think I liked any of the side quests that you use Scrapper for, but it was a little bit redeemed by the music, because it's just a little bop. I love it.
One other thing that I think I did enjoy about the game, and something that is like sort of iconic with Zelda games in general, is Link's grunts and Link's noises.
Yeah.
And there are some good ones in this
game.
Dude,
what we should do going forward is rate Link's noises. Yeah. Like, what are his best?
Yeah. I would say my favorite out of this game was when he's walking on a tightrope, and he's like, whoa, whoa. like when he's like balancing on something. I think like, because it's you got your classic like yeah, but when he's walking on the tightrope, those are my favorite noises that he makes.
Yeah. I think I like his long fall.
Yeah. Also, when he falls in lava and he's like, hot, 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 hot.
Oh, yeah.
That's
we love a lava.
Yeah.
A lava sound. I will also say that, flying around on the Loftwing, sometimes a little hard to control, but I think that flying feels pretty good in that game.
If I take myself back to 2011,
yeah,
I feel like I would have been... I would have loved that.
Yeah.
I would have loved flying around. I absolutely would have explored all of the islands.
Yeah.
I didn't feel the need to do that in this playthrough because I think that I was more focused on the story of the game.
There's not much to see. That's in my critiques.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think that was sort of like my my focus was like I wasn't really trying to like fly all over the place with that. But you're right. It was fun.
I think like specifically the motion of like flapping the wings, like that feels good. Like a little flick of the wrist.
And having a zoom was good too. But yeah, I totally agree.
And my last thing is I love a game that lets you catch bugs.
Oh,
I love to catch bugs.
I didn't even think about catching bugs. You're so right.
I
love that.
Bugs. Bugs as a collectible is always going to get a point for me.
Bro, that entire time we played, I didn't upgrade my...
You didn't update your net?
Not at all. Not at all. And so, like, but I was, like, obsessed with catching all the bugs, but every time I was doing it with the worst net.
Yeah.
And then I went to the bazaar and I was
crazy.
like... I went to the bazaar and I went to the upgrade guy and I saw the bug net. I was like, what the... You can upgrade the net? and it's just called, like, bigger net or something like that. So I was like, oh, dang it. So... I did eventually upgrade the net. But
you really didn't upgrade a whole heck of a lot.
No, I didn't.
And you still, held your own against Demise. Want to roll that clip again?
Yeah. Audio listeners, if you're not watching the video, we just showed the clip again, and it was just as good. It was just as good.
Even more badass than before.
Yeah, I also will say, for one thing that I liked is I thought Demise looked cool. Like, when we're not talking about the imprisoned, right? I'm talking about Demise when he's in his human form or whatever. It's not human form; it's humanoid form.
Right.
Whatever. He looks badass.
Yeah, he looks like something from God of War, or like Dark Souls.
Yeah, like I feel like when I was a kid and I had like WWE action figures and I'd make them fight, like that's the shit I want to look like.
Yeah,
like it's just like a big ripped dude, and I'm like, yeah, that's what you want. That's what you want out of a bad guy.
Yeah.
So I think that's like a really good roundup of like the things that we really enjoyed. I mean, I think there are. There are other things. I would love to hear, like, if anybody who's listening has things that they really enjoyed, I'd love to hear what they thought about specifically Skyward Sword. If there's anything that we missed that they enjoyed. There are definitely some things that could have used some work.
Yeah, so I talked about how I played this game. I actually played it, like, into 2012 because I got it late in 2011. And I had just graduated college, and I noticed, like, okay, at Skyloft, like, the Knight Academy is, like, a college. Like, in that synopsis we read, it said, like, that wing ceremony thing was Link's final exam.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, so they're supposed to be in college. That's probably intentional because the target audience was probably hooked on Ocarina of Time as, like, children. And now they're in college, because this is the age group that we are. I actually thought that was tacky, even though when I was playing the game, I was really optimistic about it. I started playing the game at the same time as a friend of mine from college, and so we would kind of communicate about where we were in the game. And, like, I could tell that he was, like, not having a great time with it, or, like, he was more critical of it than I was, and, like, I was really optimistic. I was like, oh, I think it's great, and I was, like, having a good time. My first exposure to the Legend of Zelda series was Ocarina of Time, and that game has a creation story. It explains the creation of the world. And so as I was playing Skyward Sword, I was a little bit confused by the prequel lore, because it felt contradictory to the origin of the world story I'd been seeing over and over since I was 7.
One thing that I'm like becoming conscious of is like when recording this podcast, like nobody can see me nod my head, so
He's just staring at me without moving.
You know, like so I'm trying to like make an effort to be like, okay.
Interesting, yes.
Huh.
I was gonna say practice your link noises. Was that a spin attack?
No, that was me falling in lava.
Oh, gotcha. Anyway, it wasn't until after I finished the game and kind of thought through the experience more objectively that I admitted to myself that it was kind of a disappointment. I really wanted it to be good so badly, especially since it was the first one that I earned sibling rights to play through first. Right. My brothers were like making an effort to not get ahead of me in the game. So as time went on, it has just become one of the most like loathsome pieces of this intellectual property that I care about so much. And there are so many things that were established in Skyward Sword that feel like huge mistakes to me, enough so that I felt emotionally harmed by them being canonized. Like, I wanted so desperately for Nintendo to go Philips CDI mode on it and just be like, this was a mistake, let's never talk about it again. Yeah. And it's not going to be in our playthrough. Nintendo made it not exist anymore because it was so bad.
And no, they did the opposite. They made an HD remake and released it.
Yeah, they were like, this is good, doubling down.
Right.
So.
And it's still $60 in the store.
I'm actually going to, if you don't mind, I have a quote that I'm going to read from a Polygon article called Skyward Sword HD is the exact opposite of Breath of the Wild, but still great, by Suriel Vasquez, published in July of 2021. So this was written by someone who still enjoys Skyward Sword. I'm not just being a jerk. So, quote, as Nintendo itself points out, Skyward Sword birthed several of the things Breath of the Wild used to break the series mold, like a stamina meter, resource collection, and item durability. Something I remember distinctly thinking in 2011 that I never wanted to see in another Zelda game. It's good in Breath of the Wild, by the way. These concepts are all presented in Skyward Sword, but the game doesn't really know what to do with most of them. These are concepts meant for a game with more freedom. End quote. So...
Very, very valid criticism.
Yeah.
Really, a really interesting... So it's not something that I think I would immediately point out as one of the big flaws, but very good point.
Yeah. Well, it leads into one of my biggest critiques that I brought up a lot when we were playing it. The world is so linear and confined. And the vastness of the concept of the sky...
Yeah.
Juxtaposed with how few places you can actually travel to in the sky and from the sky. It's so limited. And the game feels very on rails to me, where you can't make a lot of independent choices. Even the side quests, it's like you're kind of guided through which to do when.
Yep.
And there's that one side quest the first time that Scrapper gets like the pinwheel for you, where it's like all you do is talk to people and it just does itself. So that's a criticism that I have of the game. But I did want to bring that quote into the mix because it's like, yeah, the stamina meter is ridiculous. It's not helpful. Yeah. You know, and like your items breaking is kind of frustrating, but like that was later implemented in better ways. Right. So like it was just ambitious in a way that I feel like it didn't see itself through.
True. Yeah, I definitely see that. Like, sort of that these things that are in the game, they just aren't fleshed out for the world that you have. Yeah. Like, why would you have a stamina meter when you have 3 worlds that you can go into? That aren't huge. You know?
It's basically just like so that you can sprint behind the imprisoned, and it makes it harder because you can run out of... Don't get me started in the imprisoned. I'm not even going to talk about him.
Well, I will.
Is that one of yours?
Yeah, it's one of mine for sure.
We can alternate if you want to, because I've got a few.
I think that this is a really good place to start. Talking about how linear these worlds are. Yes, there are 3 worlds and Skyloft, which is like your central hub. And that's it. For I don't know how many hours we sunk into the game trying to finish it, but it was...
I might check.
It was quite a few. I think we should check.
Let's check. Let me grab the Skyward Sword branded collector Joy-Cons.
Hell yeah, dude.
Skyward Sword HD, 40 hours or more.
Wow. In 40 hours, you visit 3 worlds, right? Like, that's it, dude. That's it. That includes side quests, that includes main missions, that includes all the dungeons. Everything like that is encapsulated in these 3 worlds. And that, to me, felt limiting. Mm-hmm. That I felt like it's sort of like a lot of what the article has to say, where there felt like so much potential with all of these things, like a stamina meter, you know, degrading weapons, everything like that. That this would be an expansive world, and it's just not.
Yeah.
I'm struggling to think of games that came out in 2011. But I mean, I know that like we had like Grand Theft Autos. I know we had like large, expansive games that you could play in 2011, and this one missed the mark on that for sure.
I will even say that most Zelda games up until this point follow a linear storyline where it's like you can't really deviate from what's happening other than doing some side quests when you want. But like, I feel like Skyward Sword, like, especially in like Farron Woods and in Eldin Volcano, you're literally just following a path.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's not even like this is an area that you can explore and find things in necessarily, because it's just like a road and you just go where you're going.
Yeah. And sometimes they'll take the same world and they'll change it up a bit, but it's always way worse.
Yeah.
Like in the volcano world, they make it so that you have to sneak through and like knock over towers and retrieve your items, which seems fun, but you're just in the same world walking around.
Or how about
shit. When
they put the forest place underwater?
That is what I was going to complain about next.
Go
that
on.
Piece of crap level was, oh my god, I hated it. If you haven't played the game, you have no idea, but they literally take the first place that you go, the Farron Woods, and then the water dragon completely submerges it in water. And you have to collect music notes for some song that she's supposed to teach you. And it is so freaking hard to get all of the gosh darn music notes. It is infuriating. The controls while you're swimming, are all motion controlled. So you have to tilt and move around your wrist to try and point in the location that Link is swimming. But the problem is that you have to calibrate it every time you start, because you could, however you're holding is how he starts. And if you're just casually holding your controller, then you may not be in a really good position to get him to swim where you want him to swim, or it's tilted and he's swimming like diagonally for 30 minutes while you're trying to go straight. And it just becomes so infuriating. So this sort of leads us to our next thing, is these motion controls.
Yeah.
They're when the Wii was out, Nintendo was pushing motion controls so hard that motion controls are the way of the future. This is how we're doing everything. Dude, it just does not work right. It is a pain in the butt. It starts out as being fun, where you're like, oh, I'm Link and I'm swinging a sword. This is great. But then it gets so infuriating when you're like swiping at those gosh darn plants that have either a vertical opening mouth or a horizontal opening mouth, and you have to slash them that particular way to defeat them, and you just keep diagonal striking, and like they just keep biting you. It's, oh my gosh, yeah. I was getting so frustrated.
Sean, every time he encountered one of those after he got the beetle, would just snap the stem. He was like, I'm not even sword fighting these anymore.
It is way faster and way easier. Yeah. You can calibrate your sword all you want, but you literally have to do it after every attack.
Yeah.
Or else you're swinging diagonally or whatever.
I read something on Reddit today that was like, if you didn't like Skyward Sword, you just didn't calibrate your controller properly, and that's your problem. And I was like, don't victim blame me.
What a bogus take.
Yeah, I was like, listen, there's a lot more wrong. None of my complaints actually have to do with the motion controls, so I'm glad you brought it up, because it's valid, but I'm intent on having other issues.
They were painful in certain parts of the game. It is painful. I go right back to the Farron Woods being underwater as being like the worst.
That was bad. You were so tired. You were like, I can't start this over later. I have to do this right now.
I know. That one was a slog. It took a lot to get through on that one. The dueling fights that you do, like with Giraheen and with Demise, those weren't too bad once you learn the controls of what to do. I think that's an example of when it was kind of done fun in a good way. But those freaking plants, man.
Yeah.
Those are the worst.
Yeah, because the thing with that is, like, you're swinging your nunchuck, as it were.
Yeah.
horizontally, you know? But it's registering as diagonal. And, like, you keep trying to calibrate and get it right. And it's just like, this is not even a real thing. This thing is just in my way.
There's 10 enemies, and I've got to slice them all. But I can't calibrate them.
You know what you also really struggled with was the Bokoblins that had the electric paddles.
Yes. The problem is that I also I feel like those were my own fault, though, at least. Like, I just refused to learn, like, how they were.
Get out of there!
Yeah. Eventually, I'm going to swing and it's going to hit and knock you over, and that's fine. You know?
A lot of the puzzles were dependent on the motion controls of using the sword in a specific way.
Yeah.
And I know I told you at the beginning of the game that the first time I played it, the first temple, I got stuck in that room where you have to kill the Skulltula to advance, and the way to kill them is to flip them over.
Oh, yeah.
By, like, pulling both controllers upward.
Which I don't know is ever described.
I don't know either. I think it is, but I don't maybe when you're learning all the sword movements.
Maybe.
But it's like, that's kind of how you figure out the puzzles in that game, is you just do every combination of moves you can think of with your remotes. And so, like, I was stuck in there for so long because I didn't think to physically flip the spider over so I could hurt its tummy.
Yeah. There was something else that I was thinking of when you were talking about that. The freaking lizards.
Oh, yeah, you hated the Lizalfos.
What are those guys called?
Lizalfos.
Lizalfos, dude.
Again, don't come at me if I'm saying that in the way that you don't say it.
Yeah.
I'll never stop.
Listen, you say it wrong, we say it right. So, those guys were also infuriating because I just couldn't figure out how to attack them properly. And then they would throw two at you at once with opposite arms.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not.
Yeah. I can still hear that sound of them just being like, and you being like, God.
Just infuriating.
The suspension of disbelief that I am meant to have to believe that anyone on this tiny floating society has not met each other. The knights also are always catching anybody who falls somehow, anytime someone falls off. So nobody's ever seen the surface, even though it's unbelievably likely that people, kids, anything can fall off the edge, but it's just never happened before.
Right.
Also, it's explained away that nobody's ever seen the surface, that like you fly around on birds, but the birds won't go past the cloud barrier. Okay. You know, like those are all things that I was just like, all right, whatever.
Yeah, it is sort of like what am I trying to say? It's like, yeah, just believe me.
If you haven't played, Skyloft is such a small area.
Yeah.
It's so small.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to compare it to.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like any... I was going to say, maybe like Kakariko Village in Ocarina of Time. It might be smaller than that. But I think maybe it's a little bigger. I don't know. But it's like the area... It's just the size of one Zelda area. And it's like, that's the whole world to these people. But there's people who haven't met each other somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know why. That just, like, irritated me.
Is there like, a specific example of, like, people who haven't met?
Well, like, Vatro, for one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Like,
You're 100% right. Because I never really... when I was playing, I never really picked that up, that, like, these people didn't meet. But, like, yeah, Batro's luring children to his little abode. And, like, everybody's like, well, I don't know where he went.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. But, like, another unforgivable aspect of this game, to me, is the repetition.
Yeah.
Where it's, like, you spend only the first really, like, third of the game finding new areas and seeing new things. But then it keeps taking you back to them. And only like tweaking it slightly, putting it underwater. Here's a new area you couldn't get to before. But like I told you after you got back from the first time you were at Lanayru Desert, I was like, you've seen the whole map now.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It's like it's not, it's like what they tried to do wasn't fun. Like, it's like, oh, you can go back to this area, but now you have a grappling hook where you can get up to this one area you've never seen before.
Yeah.
And
how
it's
about
like
that?
It's like, no, that's lame. You know? Or, you know, just different things like that. Well, now you have a slingshot that you can shoot this one little thing down. Nothing changes about this world, but now you can shoot things down. Like,
and having the fight with the imprisoned, which we've already talked about, was like, okay, it's supposed to be like an incarnation of Demise, but it's literally like a doofy looking thing. To quote Dan Avedon, it has doofy Muppet feet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I think every time I see it.
I think that's one thing too that really put me off, is that, like, I thought Demise, like, when you finally see Demise, he looks so badass, but then when you, like, the whole game, you just see the imprisoned and you're like, this thing looks dumb.
He looks so dumb, and you fight him 3 times.
By fighting, you fight his toes.
You fight his toes
and
3
that's
times.
It. 3 times.
Well, you have Groose with the cannon and everything.
Yeah.
But it's just so silly, and like the ways that the game makes you go back and do things you've already done, especially towards the end, it just feels like it's trying to artificially lengthen the game.
Yeah. For sure.
That's something I find very silly.
I found that too. We've talked about this before. Is actually something that you enjoyed, was the flying in the game. That to me was like what artificially elongated the game the most. Is because you'd have to fly from one world to, you know, one side of this the
entire sky
to the other side, and then you'd have to go back. You'd fly all the way to the song area, learn a new song, then you'd fly all the way back to a new world where you had to perform the song or whatever to open some door.
Yeah.
It was, and the flying took so long because it's rather slow.
There really wasn't a lot. There wasn't like fast travel other than when you fly to the surface, you can choose between the statues you've already visited.
Right. And the reverse of that too, where if you're on the world, you can go to one of the orange statues and you can fly to Skyloft, or you can exit a temple automatically by doing that too. But very rarely is that helpful, because it's like you have to go finish whatever temple you're in.
Yeah.
You know, which is kind of like pointless. Fast travel would have been really helpful to at least be able to travel between all of the different places by going within, you know, if you could visit all of the statues in Faron Woods by just going to one, even that would be helpful. Mm-hmm. You know, but you can't do that. You either can go to the sky, or you can save your game and keep walking around the world that you're in.
Yeah.
That's it. So as well, so another part about that too that frustrated me is like unnecessary dialogue.
Oh, yeah.
There is a lot of time spent mashing A so Fee just stops talking to you. I do not care about what you're saying to me. You know, you're like, I didn't ask for your help. Great, thank you for the dowsing rod. That's fine. But like, it's just sort of like, before you can ever even pick a place to go, she's got to tell you like, oh, you're falling into the Faron Woods. What, you know? And it's like, yeah, I know. Just let me pick.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need you to tell me where I'm falling. Just let me pick. That was also something that really was annoying. I'd just be like mashing A just to be like, okay, let me pick what bird statue I want to spawn next to.
A character would be like, hey, follow this path up to the temple. And Fee would say something like, Master, there's a 67% chance that the next course of action that we need to take is following the path in front of us until we reach the subsequent temple. And it always, like, it hits like a middle schooler trying to reach the word count in an essay.
Yeah.
Where it's like they're trying to say the most complicated thing possible.
Yeah.
And, like, I wrote in my notes that Fee would fit in the world of Danganronpa, which is the most scathing thing I can say.
Yeah. It's so true that, like, because like this person would be like, oh yeah, I saw Zelda, she went that way into that temple, and then Fee would be like, my calculations is that there's an 85% chance that Zelda's in that temple over there.
Like,
and it's
where are these stats coming from?
This person just told me 100% that she's there.
Yeah.
Why are you telling me a different thing now?
It's just so clumsy. Like, whatever they were trying to accomplish with her did not come through. Although, I did see in Hyrule Historia that her design is partially based off of the Great Fairy in Wind Waker, which I didn't clock, and I think is a little bit cool.
I think that must just be, like physical design.
Yes.
Not because...
Just physical.
Let's take the time. Let's take the time right now to air our grievances about Fee, because I hate her.
I don't even want to talk about her anymore. I hate her so bad. And like I expressed most of my rage about this to you when you were playing.
Yeah.
That like she is supposed to just be forever dormant in the Master Sword. So I'm like, in every subsequent game I've played with the Master Sword that I know and love, I now have to accept that the worst like assistant that you have,
oh my god,
is just there,
dude. She is
silently making bogus calculations.
She is so annoying in this game. Where a lot of the things that she says, I mean, sometimes she does like lead the plot along. She is available if you get stuck, you're not sure where to go. She will tell you your current objective, but she has to make sure to tell you how long you've been playing before you're done.
Yeah.
She is filled with useless dialogue. She is an annoying character. Like, I would change it. I don't want to really get into like what I would change about a game, because even though I just said that, I don't really want to get into like what I would change, because I think that people have a lot of opinions about that. I'm not necessarily interested in changing the series at all. It is what it is. There's a reason why people love it, but I do not like Fee's character. And the idea that, as you said, that she ends up being the Master Sword is, like, annoying.
I hate it so bad. And that's the kind of stuff I mean when I'm like, these ideas being permanently canonized hurts me.
Yeah.
You just took my favorite thing and made it stupid.
I just thought it was so lame that, like, she was meant to be some sort of, like, robot.
Yeah.
She was constantly throwing out, like, timing and percentages, and who asked for this?
Yeah.
And I guess maybe it's the times of 2011 of like whatever's popular.
I have no idea what that could have been.
But I don't remember robots being particularly like popular in 2011. But that is what she is. That is what you're trying to make her be.
Except she's a spirit.
Except
so why
she's
is she
spirit,
talking like that?
But she's talking like a computer lady.
Yeah,
it's just so...
Computron wants to live.
It was... I mean, I'm getting a little heated about this. but like
I'm encouraging it.
It was so lame. Like... That's what I mean is like you're playing this game and the Master Sword is this giant deal. It's something that's so cool, and inside is a robot woman, and it's just so lame.
It like cheapens it.
Yeah.
Speaking of, just like I wanted to talk about the harp.
Yep.
So most Zelda games have an instrument that you play that has some kind of magical power to travel through time, to manipulate your surroundings,
right?
To show people that you're connected.
Such as the ocarina.
Yeah. End of list. Not ones, but I understand that like with motion controls, it's like, okay, you can strum rhythmically, and that's
they had to pick something.
That's
and
how
Guitar
you're
Hero's already taken, so they're
like, I'm gonna put a clip here. Audio listeners, you will hear this. If you're watching this, you will see this. But I took this screen capture because I laughed so hard at this point.
Yeah.
You learn this song from Fee. It's called Din's Power. I couldn't hum it for you because it's indecipherable. The harp sounds like a kid slamming a display electric piano at Guitar Center before an employee asks the parent to make it stop.
There's like a clear song in the background, and then just somebody, and like that is all it is.
And then Fee's weird vocals, and then the way that she just looks like she's screaming.
Yeah.
And like I said, I understand it's difficult to replicate with motion controls, like a song that you have to memorize. So they just went with like a rhythm game where you just strum and match the circles. But like I can hum the songs you learn in other Zelda games because you actually have to memorize how they're played.
Yeah.
And that's what makes them stick to you, and it makes them kind of special. So like the use of a magical instrument in this game feels like such a joke. and it kills any like reverence that those moments are supposed to carry, which at least is very funny.
I think that that's something so specific to a person like yourself who loves this series, like, and has played the other games that have came out before this game, because this is my first experience with a Zelda game, right? And to me, like, I would not think that music is a big deal in Zelda games, because it was so like laughable in this game, where there would be this song that was playing in the background with just this harp like the same notes that aren't being played like to fit a rhythm, to fit a harmony or anything like that. Just random like bring 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 bring,
yeah,
like going on while this other song is being played in the background.
Yeah,
you know, like it's not. There's nothing. There was really no substance to the harp playing. It's just like, yeah, just swing your controller around, you know, like whatever. Yeah, that's what it's for. It's like, yeah, just swing your controller.
And it's funny. Yeah. It's funny when you're in random areas, you can take out your harp and play, and it's just like a random arpeggiated.
Yeah.
That was one thing I know I said that was like so funny to me, is like there's like hints in the world of like, if there's butterflies, like play your harp, but the way that it will like tell you is like, stand where the butterflies gather and play like the most beautiful sound a human can imagine, or something like that, and then you take out your harp and it's like harp.wave.
And I would just be slanging that thing, dude. I would see butterflies and I'd just be like, bring, 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 and then like whatever would pop up. I'd try and draw a rupee and it would give me hearts and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that's like I said in what I like about it. There was a lot musically that went really well with the game, I think. But, like, the instrument that you play and the songs that you quote-unquote learn, like, you as a person aren't learning the songs to replay them. And I think that that's a super fun mechanic in the other 3D Zeldas, at least. I haven't played a lot of the other ones. I have 2 more things that I have in this section of my criticisms. One is, like, kind of a joke and the other is not.
Okay.
There's one Goron. Where are the rest of them?
Oh,
we went to Elden Volcano and there's no more Gorons.
Is there only one? Is he the same one every time?
He's the same one every time.
I didn't even realize.
Where the hell are the rest of them? That's the best race.
Yeah. Whoa.
I'm gonna. You have these like Zelda races that come in different games. This is my joke one, so I'm not even trying to be serious, but now I'm like actually thinking about it, where it's like you have like the Zora, you have the Gorons, you have the Gyarados people, you have I feel like there's not like, you don't see Zoras. You don't meet any Gyarados people. Hylians aren't really a thing until after they return to the surface and create the Kingdom of Hyrule.
Right.
And so why is there a Goron? And where are the rest of them?
Yeah.
Show them to me.
Yeah, because there's also like no mention that like he's the last Goron or anything like that.
Or the first Goron.
Yeah, or the first Goron, you know, because that is like, now's the time, you know? Like, it's really just like almost an afterthought of like, well, this one was in Ocarina of Time.
Maybe I need to just like look into it more. Maybe that's explained and I'm just not remembering.
Not that I'm aware of. I think that's true. Yeah.
I love the Gorons so much.
So I firmly agree. Not enough Goron representation.
Yeah, one token Goron.
That's it.
And so my last thing is I just have to talk about the lore.
Yeah.
So the creation story in Ocarina of Time,
which I don't know.
You don't know, so I'm not going to go crazy talking about it right now. But I feel like it has such a fascinating framework. And so as a prequel story, why wouldn't any of that have been explored and fleshed out a little more if this is the first one in the series? And Skyward Sword, like I said before, it feels almost contradictory to it and feels a little frustrating to me. Like, we have the trinity of Din, Nehru, and Furore, which, like, that impacts everything.
Yeah, and I know all of those characters
and
for sure.
Sean knows this very well. I can see it in his eyes.
Yeah. I've heard of Din, Feyru, and Furore.
Listen, in this house, we respect the goddesses. But now we also have the goddess Helia, which it's like...
She is the goddess of levitating balloons.
I just don't understand, like, how she relates to Din, Nehru, and Furore other than being a protector of the Triforce. So is she like a servant of the goddesses? Because I'd like to know more about that. And
yeah, because like they're all goddesses, and she's a goddess, but it has nothing to do with these ones.
Yeah, but you never really see them personified or anything.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to see how the other games handle the Trinity of Goddesses.
Yeah.
And if you learn more about them in a more personified way, because it looks like that's potentially the case. But if this is supposed to be the first one, why wouldn't we explore any of that? And I will die on this hill. Like, was Ganon not good enough as a recurrent shape-shifting otherworldly force that they had to give him a predecessor that isn't even as scary as him or different enough from him to make any sense?
This is where this is where I get so heated and annoyed.
Can I just want to finish this. Like, Ganon, I think we need to just let Ganon be the big bad. Like, he is bad enough to be the original evil.
This is what I'm saying. This, like, I don't know when it happened or why it happened. Why we're drawing a distinction between Demise and Ganon.
That's the whole problem with Demise as a character.
Yeah. He is Ganon.
But there's no mention of Ganon in this entire game.
And also, if you ever look up Demise on, like, doing any research, it specifically tells you that he is not Ganon.
Right.
Like, that's...
But for all intents and purposes, they didn't distinguish him from Ganon at fucking all. At all.
That they didn't, but he is. Like, that's the thing that makes me so annoyed is, like, Demise is Ganon. Just call him Ganon. You're trying too hard, you know?
That's what drives me nuts, is they tried to make something that was worse than Ganon.
Yeah.
And they gave us the Imprisoned.
Yeah.
Ganon also shapeshifts. There's different forms of Ganon. He never looks that stupid.
Yeah.
And so it just feels, I hate to use irreverent because it sounds like I'm taking this too seriously, but let's be honest, we're on a podcast talking about this. I'm already taking it way too seriously.
Valid.
It's just ridiculous. I love Ganon.
I think that exactly what you're saying is totally valid. Ganon is evil enough.
Yeah.
We don't need to make another character who is but isn't Ganon.
Is the origin of Ganon,
you know?
I guess.
Because we're still doing the same song and dance with Zelda. Like, Zelda is still Zelda, but she's a goddess. Like, it's within that same vein of, like, at least this is Zelda. Where you're like, oh, no, this is Ganon's stepdad, you know, like what is going on here?
What is going on? And it's like, okay, like his spirit, like he's like a demon, he's a king demon or whatever, and like his spirit is gonna haunt like the bloodlines of Link and Zelda. So it's like, yeah, is that just Ganon then? So why did we call him something else?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I hate Demise so bad.
It's just trying too hard. That's all it is.
That was my final critique, was I just had to crab about the origin story being weirdly stupefied and then Ganon being nerfed. I almost said turf, which is completely different.
Yeah, this isn't about J.K. Rowling. So for me, the gameplay was fun, a little clunky at times. The story I thought was nice and fun, but there were some plot holes, some things that I didn't really like about it as well. So for me, on a 10 heart scale, I'm going to put this at about 4 hearts. I think it was just under halfway. I think that there's more to be explored in this world. I think that it's something that can be done better, and I'm greatly looking forward to more games to play. I will say that although this game didn't quite meet the mark or be like one of the top games I've ever played, it has really made me way more excited to play more Zelda games. Because it's like, okay, now we're through that one.
I'm excited to have it out of the way.
So just to reiterate, for me, I'm giving it 4 out of 10 hearts.
Okay, for me, out of 10 hearts, this game killed me, left me with 0 hearts, and then I had a fairy on hand, but it only gave me 4 hearts, and I was immediately killed again.
That doesn't make sense. Fairies give you 6 hearts.
In Skyward Sword?
Yeah.
All right, that was the joke I was trying to make, is that they don't fill all of your hearts. Anyway, I want this game decanonized. I hate it. Send it to hell. I'm done. 0 hearts. Zero hearts.
Zero hearts. That's a fair opinion.
This game, I get so personally irked by this game.
Yeah. I mean,
I talked about what I liked about it. Okay, I'm still giving it a 0.
I think that that's fair because you were coming from a place of this being like your franchise, one of the absolute favorite games. You have seen this game live up to its potential. So to see something fall so far, it's fair to give that. Be like, no, I don't want to give this a score because these other ones can live on without it and be completely fine.
I can also recognize that it's like I definitely have like the film of nostalgia over my eyes with the Zelda series because I played Ocarina of Time when I was young. I played Wind Waker when I was like 12. I played Twilight Princess when I was like 16. So it's like those are all formative ages to be playing really cool games.
Yeah.
And so those all matter to me because of those points in my life. And so maybe I had the series on a pedestal when this stupid
I don't know, because you also didn't like it when it came out.
Yeah, that's true. I tried to like it while I was playing it, and then afterwards I was like, man, that was dumb. Why did this have to be the one that only I was allowed to play? I'd have the dumb one.
Well, thank you for listening to the first episode of... Wait, is That Not Zelda? This, of course, is just the start of our adventures in Hyrule. The next game that we will be playing is Minish Cap, which came out for the Game Boy Advance. So this is our kind of first dive into going into 2D Zelda now.
And this is a Zelda game that neither one of us has ever seen.
Yeah, that's pretty fun. Thank you for listening. We appreciate you. And Jake, take us out.